Thanks for joining me today for 5th grade science. My name is Mrs. Sensenbrenner and I'm a teacher at Tompkins Middle School. Today we're going to be doing a lesson on design thinking, and we're going to be using some extraordinary characters from the design game, The Extraordinaires. Get ready to get creative. But in order to do that, let's be free of distractions. Clear your workplace, calm your mind, and let's focus. You might even need a piece of paper and a pencil to really get your ideas going and to be able to brainstorm freely. So the first thing I want you to think about is things that are designed for us, though. What do we use every day that has been designed specifically for something that we need? Have you ever used one of these? Do you know what this is? They come in different shapes. They come in different sizes. These only fit one, but what's it for? Do you recognize some clues? I left them in there for you. These are pencil sharpeners. Now, these might look a little bit different for you in your classroom. In my classroom, we have one with lots of different functions. Why does this one have so many circles? Well, it solves the problem of being able to do it with different size pencils, maybe even a colored pencil if you ask for permission. Here, this one's on our wall, and then you can see the other two that I have that are just portable so that we can move them around the room and not be a disruption. Why were these designed for us? What are our needs that makes it so we have 4 different pencil sharpeners just right here? And there's more. If you Google pencil sharpeners, you're going to come up with a lot of different ones. So that's what I want you to start thinking about. Why was this design put in place for me? And what need does it meet? Whoops, something's happened. Let's try this again. We'll just touch it. So here's some other things that are designed that I use. And when I think about things, I'm going to introduce a new vocabulary that I'm a user. I'm going to use a camera. I use a cell phone. I've used a bicycle, a fork and a knife, a car, and a pencil. These are all items that I use. So this is me as the user. They've designed these items for someone like me to come along and use them. So our definition of user for today's lesson is going to be the person operating or using the object or thing. But like I said, we're not just sticking with our normal everyday people. We're going to be designing for a different type of user, an extraordinary user. So first, let's get to know some clues about them. And like I said, this is from a game. These characters were released from a game called The Extraordinaires. I want you to carefully pay attention. Use your observation skills and look for as many details as you can. There are no words. This is only based on pictures. So the visual clues that you're going to have to find are hidden. I want you to see if you can make a claim. This is another vocabulary word that we're going to use. A claim is what we know about this person. So using your power of observation, look for clues to come up 3 to 4 claims about our extraordinary user. And the person that we're going to be looking at today is a giant. So look at our pictures. We have a main scene of our giant. And then we have an alternative scene, which gives us a little bit more information about maybe where this user lives, what type of things they interact with. Here we have another surprising scene. And I think this scene, based on my observation, might be a job. Is that what you see? And then here we have some more details. We'll have to dig a little bit further in that one to see what we think that is. So as I look through it, I'm looking for clues so I can make my claim. What I know about the giant based on these pictures. Because we're going to have to design something for this giant to use. That's our challenge today. So here's our main scene, alternative, the details, and the surprising scene. So here again, you can see a little bit bigger, and I'm going to point out some claims, and then we'll zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to make the claim based on what I've seen, and just give me a thumbs up if you see this too. Do you think this giant is a friend to humans, or a thumbs down is not a friend to humans? I want you to look in the picture and see what supports that observation, and then keep that to yourself because we're going to talk about it in a minute. My next claim is I'm going to make that this giant is a friend and also loves animals. Do you see that with your observation skills? Look at all the pictures. I'm also going to make the claim that I think this giant likes archery. Use your observation, see if you can find where I've made my claim. And then the last claim I'm going to make is that this giant has trouble shopping. So the last two are a little bit different than the first two. I've used some really easy characteristics. You might have to think a little bit harder, a little bit more creatively to find out where I got my claim. Remember, a claim is what I think I know about this person. Step number 2, now that I've made a claim, I need to have evidence. Now, in the real world, you might have a client. If you're a home builder or a hair salon owner, that person might come and say, I want purple hair. And you have to give the client what they want. If they want a school building and you build a ranch, you have to know what the user wants. You have to have evidence for what's going to be good for that user. So let's look for evidence. I made 4 claims. I may have been right, but I may have been way wrong too. So let's go back to the picture and make sure that when I tell my giant that I've made her this wonderful design item, that I think she's really going to buy it and I think she's going to use it. So I'm going to make sure, look for evidence, and here I go. Notice I'm going to pop up some green circles around the objects as I find them. So I made the claim that she was a friend to humans. And I made this claim because she is helping these skiers. Notice that she has the skiers right in her hand. And this is a ski slope. So when we look at the whole main scene, how you would get from the top to the bottom of a ski slope is normally you would sit in what's called a ski lift and you would ride it to the top. Does this picture have a ski lift? No, I don't see one either. So I think that the giant is being the ski lift, helping people get from the bottom to the top. So she's really a friend to humans here. And in this picture over here, she's providing wind. Now, wind is an alternate energy source, so it's free and reusable. And she's sitting there and she's using her mighty lungs and blowing to make the wind turbines blow to give the community energy. So I think based on my claim, I think she really likes humans. My next claim is that she loves animals. And I said this because it's really small, but right here, she has a pet deer. And she's feeding it. And then up here, she's letting the birds rest on her back. So I think my evidence supports my claim that she loves animals. The next claim that I made was that she likes archery. Well, do I have any evidence to support this claim? There's outside, there's trees, but I really didn't have any evidence. So sometimes we can make a wrong claim. We might even have evidence that might lead us in the right direction, but the user says we misinterpreted it. But here, I didn't have any evidence that she liked archery. What I was thinking in my head was that over here, maybe she was using those as archery bows, but I think I was wrong. So I'm going to cross out my claim. The next claim I made is that she has trouble shopping. Now, I really paid attention to the details here. I noticed that in all the pictures, she only has one dress. And she also has boats for shoes. Take a look at that. That's really creative on her part to take a boat and use those as shoes to walk around. Now, she does have another pair over here, so we know she has at least 2 pairs of shoes, but only one dress in every single picture. But then, like every good lady, she's got a nice necklace, but it looks like it's an anchor from a ship. So she's really creative and inventive, which means she's got to find her own clothes or design them herself. So we might want to help her out there. And I think after noticing that she really has to self-design her clothes, maybe that's what she's doing over here. There's a craft called knitting, and this could be what she's doing using lampposts because she's a giant and she's huge. So make sure when you're looking at your pictures, whichever extraordinary you have, that you make sure to find all of your claims and make sure they're supported by evidence. Because now I'm going to give you a challenge. We're going to design something. So now that we've noticed and we've learned something about her and we've proved it by evidence, the next really big challenge of designing for other people is thinking like them. And this is called empathy. So we want to learn to think like somebody whose needs and wants and lives are completely different from ours. I am not this big, and I don't live in the cold. So already her life is very different from mine. But I need to think like her in order to make a good product for this giant. So I'm going to choose the giant in this case. I'm going to think, if I was the giant, what pet would I want? So let's take a look at these 4 pet options. Think to yourself and think to yourself a reason why it maybe would be a good pet or wouldn't be a good pet for the giant. So our 4 options is a dog, a little kitty cat, a fish, and an elephant. So I want you to think about which one of these would be a really good pet for our giant. Based on what we know from the clues already, let's go through and talk about this one. Is there any that you would cross out right away based on where she lives or the environment that you saw? I think I agree. I would cross out probably the fish. Right away, she lived in a cave and she is in the cold, and I didn't see any water accessible around. So I'm suggesting, also based on size, a goldfish is really small and the giant's really big, so she might not even be able to see the fish in the fish tank. So I would take out the fish right away as a distractor. That leaves me with 3 good options, a dog and a cat. I've had a dog as a pet. Have you ever had a pet? I really liked my dog. Do you think a dog would be a good pet for a giant? There are dogs in the picture for people, but notice how big the dog is to the person and how big it is to the giant. So when we think about dogs and cats, we're going to think about them the same. I'm going to say that those are probably not a good option for this giant, because what if she accidentally rolls over in her sleep? What could happen to the dog or the cat? So I think those are just a little bit too small. What if she sneezes? Oh goodness, the cat or the dog or the goldfish could blow away. So I think out of these options, our best one would be an elephant. Elephants can weigh up to a ton. So if she sneezes, it's not likely that the elephant would blow away. And an elephant would be a significant size. An elephant to us is like a giant. But an elephant to a giant could be the same as a pet kitten. So I think a good option for the giant as a pet would be the elephant here. Now I'm going to give you another one. I'm going to trick you. What if our user was a merman? Would we still pick the elephant for this user? I don't think so either. Based on what we see in the picture, this should be an easy one. Which pet would be the best option for our merman? Got it too? I think so. I'm going to go with the goldfish on this one. Looking in the picture, there's a lot of goldfish already, and he lives under the water. So I think we're really good on that one. Now, what about a chair? The giant's got to sit down at some point. So these are a couple of chair options. I have a sofa at my house. Do you have a sofa? It's where I like to relax and watch some TV. Do you think the giant could fit in it? Probably not. What about this nice throne? That would be beautiful to relax in, or even to reign her kingdom. But it still looks really small for her. Now this is a very large shell. I'm not sure that that's her style either based on where she lives. Could this chair work? I think if that were maybe a redwood tree, it would provide enough camouflage. Maybe not every human knows that she's alive. And if that, she could hide some of her furniture in plain view. So I think the best chair, I agree with you, is going to be the wooden log. But would it be the same for our merman? Again, here, our sofa and our royal throne probably would not do so well under the water. So I think we're going to go with the seashell on this one, don't you? I agree. So here we're going to introduce 3 new extraordinaires. This is going to be who you get to pick. This is your choice now. We've met our giant, and now we have a spy. And then we briefly have seen our merman. We can see some of his kingdom in the background. He's got things that he's looking for and lots of fish. Our spy is a young lady. Looks like she is mid-adventure, and she is about to drop down into a boat, being chased by some smaller boats, and she's talking into her watch. So she's got some gadgets in a bag, and she's really a daredevil. She's briefly hanging on to this flying ladder with her arm and her leg as she continues her mission. And then we have our giant. So you get to pick, and I want you to think as if you're one of these 3 people. So we're going to keep thinking like our user, and you get to pick if you're a merman or a spy or a giant. And we're going to look at some items that have already been made that you can pick up in the store. And I want you to think to yourself, would my person like this object, dislike this object, or think it's just okay? So what about this bike? I've been bike riding a lot the past couple of days with my little kids. Do you think the merman or the spy or the giant would like this object, think it's just okay, or dislike it? Is this a product that they could use? Was it designed for their needs? I'm not sure that the merman could use it at all, could he? What is the merman really lacking that this requires? He's lacking feet. So he can't even pedal this. And would it even work underneath the water? There's a lot of design flaws that don't meet the merman's needs here. What about the spy? She could use it. We don't know if it meets what her lifestyle is. We need a little bit more information about her. What about the giant? I don't know if this is a big bike or a little bike, but I've never seen a giant-sized bike, so I'm going to say that this isn't going to fit her needs either. So only potentially one of our people could really use a bike. Even though a bike is really common, it's not for everybody. What about cupcakes? Think as if you're the user. Are you a merman? Are you a spy? Or are you a giant? Would you enjoy these cupcakes? If I were the merman, would they even survive underwater? I think they would turn into a mushy mess. So I don't know that the merman would ever even be able to take a bite out of it, even though it looks delicious. What about the spy? She could definitely use it. She could maybe even make it better and improve upon it. Maybe this is a cupcake that's disguised as a surveillance object, and the sprinkles can really be microphones or listening devices, or maybe it's a secret container and it's hiding some of her special stuff inside of it. So she might be able to use it just as a late night snack or make it better and improve upon it to really meet her needs. What about the giant? Again, I think if this was a 5-pound or 50-pound cupcake, the giant might be able to enjoy it. But right now, how we look at that little tiny sprinkle, that's probably how the giant would look at just one cupcake. It'd be the same as trying to eat just one teeny tiny sprinkle. So remember, even though we all can say that we pretty much love cupcakes, I know I do, they're not for everybody, and they don't meet everybody's needs either. What about rain boots? So I want you again to think as your merman, your spy, or your giant. We saw that our giant only had 2 pairs of shoes, and she's going into the snow and she's going into mountains, so she might need them. I think the material would be really good for a giant. But she's using a boat. So do you think these come in her size? I think there's something wrong with that design when it comes to a giant. But I really like that material for her. So that's something to think about. What about our spy? I think our spy could use these. She's about to jump into a boat on water, and these are pretty waterproof. Do you think the spy would just wear something that doesn't have any extra gadgets? I think she's pretty efficient in her costume, So we probably have to hide some other tricks in the bottom of the shoes to make sure that she's really meeting her needs in all that she can hide. Again, what about the merman? The merman doesn't have any feet, so this wouldn't be too good for him. So that was really good. You guys did a really good job of thinking like your user and deciding if common objects are for your user or not, and do they meet the needs of your user? So now I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to give you a challenge to pick your user again, whether it's the merman or the spy or the giant. And I want you to design one of the following things for your user. I want you to design a remote that can turn something on or off. Is the person going to watch a TV? Is the person going to need, if they're the underwater merman, are they going to need an alert system? It can turn anything on or off that you want. Or design a pair of pajamas. A merman, a spy, or a giant might need a pair of pajamas. Or a communication device. Design something that would allow them to talk to somebody that's not right in front of them. And it can be anything you want. This is where you get to get really creative. So I'm going to design a pair of pajamas for my giant. So when I look and I think about it again, we looked at the boots and I said that material was really good for the giant. I also need to make sure that material is really big and comes in a large quantity. I probably am not going to use a zipper on her pajamas, like the baby pajamas that zip up from the toes all the way down, because then I would likely need a zipper that's the length of the Sears Tower. So I need to take in her size. I also need to take in maybe her job or the environment would be another one. She lives in a cave, but it can also be cold and there's grass and mountains. So I think that her temperature might change a lot from what we know about climates and ecosystem. So she might get cold at night, and we want to make sure that her pajamas are really well insulated. Is it accessible? Can she move around in it? Can she crouch down in it? We don't want these to be uncomfortable and sticky pajamas that we're about to make. We want it to be efficient for her needs. So let's take a look at what we can do with our giant. So I'm going to think, I'm just going to brainstorm. Do I want it to cover her feet? Do you think that, so some of my pajama options, I'm just going to call them PJs. Should they have footies? Or should it be a pajama dress? Here we know she's wearing a dress, so we know that she likes dresses already. Okay. Should it have long sleeves? I don't see her wearing long sleeves, but she does have long pants. Now, something I was thinking about is with how cold it could get. What type of material do people usually wear that keeps them cold or hot and can react really well with the changing environments? Maybe like a cold gear or a hot gear. Material, maybe a scuba suit. Scuba suit, though, would be really uncomfortable to try to sleep in, and it'd be extra tight. What about a fleece? So this is my brainstorming list. So as you go through and start picking, are you doing pajamas for your merman? Are you doing pajamas for your giant like me? What needs is the person going to have? And then also think about what color. What color does this person want? Do they want to stand out? Do they care to blend in? And go through the process of asking yourself some of these questions to really meet their needs of what they want. So we're going to go back. Next time you come, when we come back to next class, or as you're designing, I want you to take a second to share your designs. So if you've made a really cool remote control for your spy or a communication device for your merman, share it with us. Email it to your teachers, email it to your principals, and let them know who your user was, let them know what you designed, And if you want to get even more creative, you can pick another extraordinary person, like a werewolf or a fairy or a robot or a wizard. You can get really creative on this design challenge. So please make sure to share your idea. It's really important that we hear from you, and make sure it's helpful to your user too. We're wrapping up for today. I've had a lot of fun designing with you guys. Hope you've had fun too. Your secret word for today is the word sun. Okay, hopefully the sun is out outside after you watch this. But make sure to tell your teacher that you've watched this video by telling them sun. Okay, that's our little secret word. But I can't wait to see what you've made. And we really want to thank the Extraordinaires for their images in their game today. We miss you guys. Have a great day.